With both the project-based contract and the umbrella contract, it's really important to get those three groups together when you're looking at a procurement.
Thank you.
In the past, In the past, the way it normally went was the technical people would throw together a scope of work. They would throw it over the wall. Procurement would take it, slap some paperwork on it, throw it on the street, and then project management would get a package and do with the best they could with it. Our vendors would get the same package, and they would try and decipher what do they really want. We've done a lot with a number of different outside business groups. We hear the same thing over and over again. You blame us for not hitting the marks, but we don't know what you want. We can't tell what success looks like to you. We can't figure it out because it's not in your RFPs. It's not in your scopes of work. Your technical details are not there, or they're there in such detail that we don't know the big picture. All we see is the little picture. We need to see the big picture. We need to see all of what you need. We need to know really what success looks like. Think of it as a puzzle. If there's a couple puzzle pieces missing, you kind of get the overall fuzzy, but it's not right. With these two contracts, you need the entire puzzle there. And if the entire puzzle isn't there, then somebody's not going to get paid. That's the way it works. We kind of went back to, we discussed H-bits, we discussed P-bits. We'll talk about it in the umbrella. In the past, when you pay hourly, or even currently, if you pay hourly, it is really in the benefit of the vendor to find problems, to expand the scope. They want to be done with this project, but they really want to get as many hours in as possible. That's their job. They provide services. They provide staffing. With these contracts, we're not looking for anybody to grow the scope. You've done that work. You know what your scope is. You see the picture. You know where you want to be in 36 months. We want the vendor to get us there. We don't want to find out about other problems, or we want them to document it. We'll find a solution for it. We don't want them to say, oh, this screen would look really nice if it was blue instead of red. We don't care about all these other pieces that are going on. We want to get from A to B. That's all. That's what you're bidding on. So when we talk about there's going to be a delay in the project, that's fine. There's going to be a delay in the project. You're not going to get paid. If the vendor is going to keep putting out payment, they have to pay their staff. Every week or every other week, they have to send out a paycheck. If they don't get that deliverable done, they're putting that money out there and not going to get paid for that work. It's as simple as that. They want to keep their payroll. They have to keep their bank accounts in the black. The only way to keep their bank accounts in the black is to hit those deliverables. That's the power of this contract. Power of all three of these, or well, at least these two contracts. So that's why this is so important. That's why Mark spent a lot of time talking about deliverables. I'll spend some time talking about deliverables. It's really what we're focused on here, is making sure you understand how to use these tools. The umbrella is similar to some of the old OGS contracts. If you want a server, you can get a server. You'll get it at its cheapest price, just the way you could before. If you want services to put it in, fine. We had that in the old contract too. Not a problem. If you want 100 servers, you want to integrate them into a backbone, you want someone to load software on them, and when they walk out the door, the system is up and running, that's something you couldn't get before. Now you can get that. And now you can make sure you get the lowest price to get that. So that's really what we're talking about here. That's why when we look at both the project-based and the umbrella, we're really emphasizing the deliverable nature of this, because it really is to get the project done. It's not just, I have a new bunch of servers, great. You can check something off in your management chart. It's the system is up and running, the contractor's out the door, and you get the promotion because that project's now done on time and on budget. So, specifically on the umbrella, this contract is meant for every piece of IT you can think of that is a product. So we have software. Every software out there that doesn't touch the cloud goes in the software lot. Very easy. Hardware, if you can touch it, it goes in the hardware lot, as long as it doesn't touch the cloud. Cloud lot is brand new. There's never been a centralized contract before for cloud services. There's never been an OGS contract before that included specific terms and conditions for cloud services. And we did a lot of work with this. We had a meeting down in New York City with cloud vendors. You know, what do you think about these terms and conditions? How do these work for you? We had a bunch of vendor or authorized user reach outs, had sessions with some of your experts in this field. What do you want from the cloud? We did a lot of work on this, both technical side, legal side, procurement side. How are we going to make this happen? What we have in here is our best effort at it. You can get pretty much any cloud service you want under this contract. It has base terms and conditions. They may not meet your need. You can add to it. We said for high-level data, dangerous data, people's names, social security numbers, Medicaid information, whatever else, we want $10 million worth of insurance on that. If you think, wow, my information is way more troublesome than that, I want $100 million worth of insurance on it, fine, go ahead. You can add that term and condition just like you can on PBITs. So we're allowing a lot of flexibility in this contract. This is not for the faint of heart. It's something you should enter into very, very carefully. And we'll talk about that more as we go along. Cloud looks like this nice shiny ball that everybody wants until you actually look at it and look at your responsibilities and look at the technical responsibilities on the authorized user. It's a scary place to be. The fourth lot is implementation services. It's a lot like PBITs on top of the umbrella. Deliverable-based contracts, 36 months maximum. We allow 20% rather than the 10% that PBITs has for an overage or for a contingency fund. So we're allowing a little more room because there is a little bit more to play with here. You might need more equipment. You might need different services to integrate with your existing systems. Those four lots are set right now and they're posted. We have contractors in all four. The way the umbrella is built, if the next wave of technology comes out, we can pop it on very quickly. We're thinking about 6 months, which is lightning speed for OGS or for the state service. To stand a new OGS contract up or a new lot of services up in 6 months is incredibly fast. We really can't figure out what that next thing will be, but we know from the contracts we had 10 years ago, the old server contract, the old storage contract, no one thought of appliances 10 years ago. No one thought of cloud 10 years ago. We said hosted, but we really didn't know what cloud meant. We didn't know why it was dangerous. So we've added on the ability to throw on another lot next week. 6 months, if we get a demand from enough authorized users or, of course, from the executive that says we want a new lot for this, 6 months, we should be able to stand it up. It's much more flexible than it was. We also heard from our authorized users that it was very painful to have to go to this contract, do an RFQ for software, this one for hardware, this one for the services to put it in, or to get my pod of servers, to get 100 servers, and I'm capped with 20% installation fee. The 80-20 rule was a great rule at the time. Technology's changed a lot in the last 20, 30 years since that rule was put in place. Now a small piece of software can run you 3 or 4 times the amount of the software license itself to install it and implement it. So we built that into our implementation section. It's unlimited. The amount on the implementation section is whatever you need, but it has to be done in 3 years. With this contract, you can also go across lots. So you can buy the software, the hardware, and the services to put it in. If you're doing a cloud implementation, usually you need the cloud service, you need some type of end unit, you may need some middleware to make it work, and you need someone to come in and train your people how to use it, to integrate into your existing systems, to do all that other fun stuff. Maybe your data needs to be reformatted from one database into this new cloud database. You can build that all into one single package, hopefully on a single transaction. It would be nice to do it on a single PO. That's pushing it a little bit. I don't know if we can guarantee one PO, but definitely one transaction. This should be much faster for you to use. So this contract has mandatory competition. If you know which manufacturer you want, you go to that manufacturer and all their resellers. That could be extensive. We're working on a mailing list. We're just getting this contract stood up. Our reseller lists are changing on a daily basis. And unlike previous contracts, in this contract, manufacturers are responsible for the actions of their resellers. So in the old contracts, if someone bought a XYZ switch and put it on their contract, you got the switch, put it in place, and they did something weird to that switch, the manufacturer had no responsibility over it because they were not the one who sold it to you. They were not responsible for it. The one who was responsible for it was that reseller. That's great. Sometimes there's been issues with that. Now the manufacturer is directly responsible for the actions of all their resellers. So they make sure they're trained. They make sure they know what they're doing and what the limits of that piece of hardware are. They can't sell you a piece of hardware for a job it was never intended to do, which unfortunately has happened in the past, and we've been burned by that before. The people who wrote this contract have been sitting in agencies. We haven't been sitting in OGS or haven't been sitting in some executive area. We've all been in your place. We've been sitting at agencies saying, I can't believe I'm stuck with this contract. That's why we built this. And when we run into problems like that, where you have a unqualified reseller selling equipment, what's the manufacturer supposed to do? I'm not responsible. Well, now they are. They're on the hook. We know that this is a big change. We're getting vendors, or we're getting manufacturers on this contract that have never had resellers before. They know there's a reason to come on this contract, and that reason is a $2 billion category. That's what New York State spends on hardware, software, and services, $2 billion. They want a piece of that pie. The big piece of that is implementation. They don't get implementation until they give us the pieces we need, till they agree to the terms and conditions we want, and to the pieces that we've built into this contract. When our first group of manufacturers came on, they came on in dribs and drabs. Now we have some bigger names out there. We just awarded HP, Cisco, Dell. We have a couple more that are going up today. Now the other big names are starting to look at this and say, hey, now there's someone else, my competitor is on contract. They can get a full set of services very, very quickly out the door. I can't because my contract is expired, or I'm stuck with an old contract that doesn't have implementation services, so I'm stuck with the 80-20 rule. They want to get on this contract, and they want to get on quickly. So we built in periodic recruitment language just the same way that PBITS has. We're still in the process of reviewing and awarding. So once we get through with that review, and it is a very detailed review, when we get through with those reviews, we'll lock it down. We'll make our determination of who's DQ'd and who gets an award. And then we will put this out for periodic recruitment and start the whole process over again. And we have a lot of interest. So that first group of vendors is going to get 6 months, maybe, of unlimited access to authorized users for your procurements. You're going to be able to buy from them very quickly. Somebody else is going to have to wait for an RFP to come out. That's really troublesome to a salesperson who's waiting for that money. That implementation section, unlike an HBITS where it's an hourly based, this is PBITS. This is, again, project based. The point is to get the contractor in, get the solution stood up, get it trained, get it integrated, and for the vendor to get out. You can have maintenance on this contract as long as you'd like. As long as there's a vendor SKU, there are vendor SKUs on here for 5 years maintenance on servers or equipment. They could go longer if they wanted to. But it's really for those technical experts to come in, get the job done, and get out, so we can get on with the business of this state. Brian? No, maintenance is built within the hardware and software categories. So as is installation, vanilla installation, vanilla maintenance, and vanilla training are all built right within the lot. So you can buy a server, you can buy the services to drop it in, and the training all on one PO, one transaction, no problem. It's only when you get custom that you flow into the implementation side of the house. So this is where we are right now. We received 125 bids. That was a lot. There are a number of those vendors who made fatal flaws. You know, you're procurement people, you know what fatal flaws are. They forgot to submit something. They didn't submit their pricing sheet. They were unrecoverable. We tried our best. We still have most of them in play, though. We have 30 awarded, with many more coming. As you can see, we have 12 vendors in the cloud lot. We're very excited by that one. I don't know all of them off the top of my head. I know Verizon and AT&T, which are big users and our authorized users were very interested in those, are in there, along with a number of others. We're doing training for agencies. That's what we're doing now. We're authorized users. We're also doing this road show in a bunch of different locations around the state, because we not only care about the state, we care about our locals. We want to make sure everybody can use this contract effectively. We have to train our contractors. We know that. This deliverable-based model is a huge change for them. They're going to have to figure this out. They're going to have to figure out, since Brian's here, where do I put an MWBE? What part of my project? So I've got a 3-year project. I'm going to put in some software. I'm going to modify some databases, and I'm going to train a whole bunch of staff. If it happens in the cloud, where's my MWBE percentage? That's a tough one. But do you have to train on site? You know, is somebody actually going around the state looking for on-site training? Great, there's a nice MWBE spot. Do you have to convert a database? Sure, fine. That's a great place to put MWBEs. Can you break up a project and put in MWBE here, there, and everywhere? Why not? One of the things Brian and I were just talking about was in the implementation plan, that vendor's going to feed back to you, here are my different steps, or you're going to dictate to them what my deliverables are. You should have them dictate back to you, I'm going to have an MWBE participate in this step or that step. This contract has a 30% goal in implementation. That's huge. The reason it has a 30% goal is we have a lot of MWBE contractors in the IT field. And there's a lot of seasoned MWBE contractors out there. They can do this work. This is not rocket science. We can make this happen. We have to do with our training, we're not only training our manufacturers, we're training our resellers. We're training our resellers to make sure they understand the implications of not hitting their MWBE percentages. That's a serious deal. On this contract, the percentages are at the contract level. OGS is going to be the one holding someone's feet to the fire, not an individual agency. If you have goals within your contract, you keep the goals. You keep the spend at the agency level. But if a manufacturer is not performing, we'll be the one having a responsibility session with that manufacturer, and it won't be a pleasant discussion. So that training is happening, or will be happening shortly. We're putting it together as we get our final awards made. We will get everybody in the same room and start talking about this stuff. It says live training is available upon request. I want to modify that one a little bit. You can sign up for live training online at the road shows. We're more than happy to come out, and as I said, we've got lots of different road shows happening all over the state. We're happy to appear for those. We really want to fill rooms, though. There's a lot of people here, a lot of authorized users that want to know how to use these contracts, and they are big, messy contracts to figure out how to use. You can get in real trouble here if somebody doesn't think about what they're doing. Online resources. This is going to be online, hopefully. Hopefully our video is good. In addition to that, we'll probably put up more training pieces. I know everyone loves those SFS UPKs that are out there showing you how to walk through specific documents. No one here is familiar with SFS. I don't see any smiles. Those documents actually walk you through how to do it. There's a little circle around this piece and it says fill in this information here. We'll have a number of different sources out there for you to use. Let's walk through the actual steps. I'm going to tell you a high-level overview of these. Sharon's going to actually come up in a few minutes and show you the forms. So we're going to get down into the weeds on this. We've made a lot of changes to our forms lately based on authorized user feedback. We built a dump truck originally, and what we needed was a sports car. So we've worked these things out. We've made a basic one where you can just order some hardware quick or some software quick. We still have a complex one there you can play with a little bit more and have a little bit more fun with, but we did streamline things a little bit. So develop your RFQ, release your RFQ to all the to the manufacturer and their resellers. It has to go to everyone. This is all about transparency. That may be a big list. Traditionally, some of our manufacturers have 70 or more resellers. That's how you get competition. That's what OGS is all about, is competition. And there's some ways to deal with that flow of email in and out. Evaluate your responses and make a final determination. Notify all the contractors and finalize your procurement record. Just to touch on your procurement record a little bit, if you're controlled by OGS or OSC, you know what your procurement record looks like. Their OSC has great training on what a procurement record should look like. They have a great checklist for it. Follow that. If you're not controlled by OSC, if you're in a local, if you're in a municipality, you've got your own procurement records. If you want to look at OGS or OSCs, great. It's a great tool, and I think it would keep anybody out of trouble. But I can't dictate to New York City what your procurement record should look like. So please follow your own guidelines on that. So as I said, there's two different types of RFQs now. There's a basic, just quick. It's like a PO, or it's like what you'd email out in the past to get a PO done. Quick, this is what I want it by this time frame, I want it delivered to this address, give me a quote back. Or there's the complex, where you can put in all the pieces about what your project plan is, what your implementation is, what are all these factors you want to build into it. We're giving you the option of using either one. You have to make that determination. A lot in this contract is based on business decision. It's your business decision. It's a good place to just throw in. This contract, like project-based, is not for everybody. It's not a one-size-fits-all, and it wasn't meant to be. It was meant to take care of 80% of the need. There's going to be a top end that doesn't fit in this. And there's going to be a bottom end that might not fit in it either. If you're looking for a $30 piece of hardware, sending quotes out to 30 or 40 different resellers and waiting 3 or 4 days to get it might be a little hard, especially if you have a team waiting, you're looking for a couple 3-meter cables. Home Depot's got them down the street. It's more efficient, more effective. You can make a form, function, and utility justification to just use your procurement card, run down the street, and grab the cables. We understand that. It's a business decision on your agency's part. If somebody comes and questions you later on, you can answer, why did you do that? Because it was expedient. This was my form, function, and utility. We understand that. There is a real benefit to competition. A real benefit to competition, and that's dollars saved. It's the way it is. We're all taxpayers in New York. We all want to see the state do as much as possible with the least amount of money possible. The way we do that is competition. The same way with PBITS, we did a fully fleshed out RFQ document. We put a lot of instructions in there. Please delete them. I mean, it just makes you look a little silly if you leave them in there. We tried to color code them and set them off. It's fine. There's nothing in there that's classified or, only AUs can see. It just shortens up your paperwork a little bit. Be very specific on your product details. If you're going to the Dell, and I'm going to use Dell, and I'm sorry if anyone's offended because I'm using Dell, but if you need a Dell PC, something that's not covered under our aggregate bid, you need something special. Go out to their website, pull up the specs for it. Go all the way through the process. There's your list of specs. Copy and paste, bring it down, put it in your RFQ, stick it in your financial document. You're good to go. We tried to make this simple for you. If you're not doing something like that, we'll talk about it. If you're just going to a single manufacturer, it's much easier. If you're going to a multi-manufacturer, it's much more complex. You have to be very detailed in your specifications. Since I talked about the aggregate bid, I'll stop for just a second. We are putting out a new aggregate bid. If any of your agencies are interested in submitting specifications for your standard model, we're open to that. We want to make sure that when we put out an aggregate bid, that the specifications we have meet as many needs as possible. I can't say we're going to include your specific model. We usually include a high and low in a PC, a high and low in a laptop. Maybe we'll do a high and low in a tablet. We'll see. We'll see how it runs. But if you have specifications, please send them in. If you're not familiar with the aggregate bid, please search. The last one that was put out was 2014. The PC prices are about half of what contract list price is, because contract list price is not to exceed, not procurement price. So, yes?
Who do we send those specs to?
You can send them to the email address we'll have right within in the presentation here. It's just a general email box we all have access to. Yes? No?
I haven't seen it on the contract. I know it's on the.
We have to get all the vendors that would normally be on the aggregate bid plus a few new ones on here.
Right now we have.
Once we get them all up, yeah, we'll run an aggregate bid very quickly off of this. It'll probably be listed as a separate document the way it was previously, but these terms and conditions will apply to it.
Because I know last contract they actually had that.
It was a little heterogeneous.
It was decided to, oh, yeah, okay. Okay. Yeah.
That's what I was asking.
Are they gonna have to turn around back? You look at that and that's what.
So the printers were purchased last year on their own. No determination has been made yet whether they're going to pull those into this or not, but that is a fairly recent contract, so I can't tell you. Right now, it's excluded from this contract, so printer manufacturers can't put their printers on here because we have another active contract. We don't let contracts compete against each other.
Right, but the printer ad buy for Lexmark and Open
Mm-hmm.
expires this month. Are you looking to do another printer ad buy?
I don't know that for sure. That's a whole different team. I can find out though. Yes. As soon as we get the vendors up that we need, we'll be running it. Tough to say. Probably late spring, early summer. I'd like it if it was a little bit quicker. It just depends on how fast we can get all those vendors on and also collect those specs from our largest purchasers. So.
You say ag buy, is that like the buy this?
So that's a good thing. Thank you for reminding me. The aggregate buy, we collect specifications from our authorized users. we collect estimated buys. So ITS is always a big customer of ours. They may say, we'd like to buy 50,000 of this high-end PC and 30,000 of this low-end PC, a few tablets and a few laptops. We'll pull all those numbers together from all the different people that submit specifications and quantities to us, and we'll go out to the big PC manufacturers and we'll say, we're putting these numbers on the table, give us your best price. And traditionally, been around $650, $700 for a PC, which is about half the price that's the not to exceed on the contract.
So no more buy this.
The buy desk is still in place. It's run by the BSC, and they are helping agencies to aggregate purchases. It's not run out of OGS, or well, I'm sorry, BSC is part of OGS, isn't it? It's not run out of the procurement shop. It's run out of BSC because they're the ones who see the transactions at the final stage, and it was a much more logical place for them to say, this person's buying 10 of these, this person's buying 15 of these, why don't we just slap them together and get a better price? Yes?
I just want to make sure I understood you correctly. I'm going to use your example with the Dell computers. So, did you say that if I need a special Dell computer and it's not on the price list, I can go out to Dell's website, grab all the specs for it, and put it onto my RFQ, and then send it out to Dell and all of the resellers for quotes?
It has to be on the price list.
Okay.
So, but Dell can add anything they want to the price list within a day or so. It's very quick for them to do ads. But what they, if you look at the, no, truly it is very quick for them to do ads now. It's much faster than it used to be. If you look at the price list now, they have the processor is one line, the motherboard is a separate second line, the memory is a third line. So they're really putting together a bundle of items into a unit. So it's pretty quick for them to say, I want a higher level processor here and a higher level memory here, and just assemble different pieces. They can bundle entire units too, and we have some vendors that have decided to just take a whole unit and say, okay, this is what this is, but then they end up listing 10,000 units rather than just the specifications, maybe 200 specifications, and you can kind of pick and choose which ones you want.
Will they have a configuration portal where they can do like they used to do with the configuration of a server, PC, on a link to their site? Because right now, there's nothing to configure.
Dell already has one built, and I'm just using Dell for an example. I don't know if the other manufacturers do. They already have one built. We have a couple problems with what they built. We just have to make a few adjustments to it. But remember that you're taking the specs from that and putting it out for an RFQ rather than just taking the price that comes online. So you can do that. You can configure online for specifications, but not for a final price.
The problem I'm having is when I do a configuration for a server and I send all the items out to all the vendors that are listed, the vendors aren't quoting exactly what is on there. If I ask for a 5-year warranty, some are quoting 3.
Right.
If I ask for a quad port mix, some are quoting dual port. So, and then some vendors are just using a one-line descriptor as stated in configuration. I don't know what that means in their world.
Right.
To me, I can't say that it meets all the requirements. So
So
you're looking for something that all these vendors can look at and all be on the same page.
the vendors can all look at it. They can see what we need. They can see their own site. They don't always want to. But one solution, we do have a number of people in OGS that had that same issue. We do have the fiscal response form that was built for this document. So you actually fill in each line of an Excel document with all those pieces. Now, the plus side is that vendor's going to have to fill out every one of those lines to make sure you get every single piece and part that you want. The bad side is you have to fill out each one of those lines with every piece and part you want.
I
So you
don't want
can,
to pay for something and then But you're
Sure.
gonna go find out that.
Exactly.
Right.
So you can do it on, you can do the work on the front end and make sure that all the lines are filled in on the Excel form that go out, and make sure, I mean, basically, if you look at the sheet and there's a line with a blank in it, somebody didn't fill it out. That's very easy to see. A lot of people say, I don't want to fill it out on the front end, they just want to send the form out, and then they get back gobbledygook. There's a reason to fill the form out. I know it's a little bit more work on the front end. We've been there. But you don't have to review it as closely. You still have to review it, but you don't have to review it as closely when the quotes come in. You can see all the spots are filled in, we're ready to go. So, and Sharon will walk through that fiscal sheet in just a minute. Yes? So it's a great question, especially for our smaller purchasers. If you don't know exactly the quantity you want, you can put a bid for what you want out and say you'd like the price held for X months. In 90 days, 120 days, great, no problem. You can also say, I'm buying, or last year I purchased $1 million worth of bits and pieces in this category from this manufacturer. I would like a category discount from this manufacturer. You can do that as well. No problem. The thing I want you to realize, though, is money on the table speaks louder than future. So if you say, I want 10 PCs, you're going to get a better price than I expect to buy 10 PCs in the next year. It's just a fact of business. If somebody can say, I've got revenue in my account within 30 days, as opposed to, I may get revenue in my account within the next year, they're going to give you a better price on it. But it's fine to list things like, I want the price held for 60, 90, 120 days. If you want to do a one quote per year, feel free. That's a term and condition you can add. If you want to try for a category discount, the thing I would add in there is, this is what I purchased last year. So there's actual numbers on the table as a sample of what you may purchase this year, just to show them that you're not just joking around. You did spend $1 million last year on this stuff, as an example. But you won't get as good a price as if you actually have money on the table. And that's a total business decision. There's a lot of business decisions in here. If you're a small shop that does, let's say I've talked to lots and lots of BOCES lately, and they say, I have PCs coming, a PC order from here and a PC order from here coming in. They want different configurations, or I get a drib or drab here and there. Okay, so I want a category discount on PCs from this manufacturer, and I want it to be good for 1 year. This is what I put out last year. This is what I'll do this year. No problem. That's fine. Sure. And that happens. Right. It's a business decision that an authorized user or authorized user organization is going to have to make. They can hold that price for a year. It just may not be quite as good as something else. But then if it's specifically on IT equipment, look at the aggregate bid when it comes out, see if it meets your needs. Yeah, right. Sure. Right. No. Basically, some small users don't get they can't aggregate by year, they can't aggregate because they get their orders in smaller amounts, especially, we mentioned BOCES. BOCES may have 15 different customers of their own. They don't get all their orders at one time. They get small purchase orders or small orders on a constant basis. So if they lock in a category discount or they lock in a discount for a specific model, they can do that for a period of time. The aggregate bid, when it comes out, the prices are locked in for at least a year period.
So you may want to
If-
put a term and condition in that RFQ that if you know that an aggregate bid is coming out, that, so maybe you say in there that prices held firm till such and such date, or if there is a resulting aggregate bid where prices are lower, you could put in contingencies within your terms and conditions to allow for that.
The only reason I hesitate is because the vendor is giving you a price on good faith that you're going to buy that quantity. As long as you put in a condition like that that says, okay, I'm going to be a little, there may be something that would come in and impact this, then you're okay. You just want to make sure that good faith is there.
Okay,
So,
thank you.
yep. Let me go back a page. No, go on to the next one. Okay. Sharon is going to go through both the simple and the complex RFPs, or RFQs in just a minute, so I didn't want to spend a whole lot of time on that. Very quickly, if you know your manufacturer, you know what equipment you want to buy, it goes out to the manufacturer and all their resellers. That's a very confined pool of people. Yes?
If you're buying a Dell switch
Yep.
and you need patch cables made from Belkin, can Dell sell those patch cables from Belkin? Or do you have to go to the Belkin man if there's one meant for that?
So Dell, we built this contract for the manufacturer to put on the equipment and hardware and software that they manufacture. They can list third-party products, but they can't sell them to you alone. So if they want to sell you patch cables, if you're buying the server, you order the patch cables at the same time. They can't sell you just the patch cables because they didn't manufacture the patch cables. They can't sell you, and back to our old contracts, what we had is 5 different manufacturers all selling the same piece of software, all at a different price. And some of the prices were triple other ones. Just very difficult for us to figure out. Logistically, you have hundreds of vendors. They all have their own price list. They all have the same piece of software, and some of those people are resellers and know how to use that piece of software, and some don't. In this case, Dell can sell you those Belkin cables, no problem at all. They can sell you with the server. They can't sell you the cables alone. They can sell you VMware to go with the server you're purchasing, but they can't sell you the VMware alone unless they manufacture the VMware. So they buy this contract is really built around you, instead of buying pieces and parts, building a solution. Buy everything you need in one big block. The other piece of this, we allow cross-manufacturer orders. That's tougher. It's more complex, and it's something you really want to think about before you do. Right now we have over 300, and I think we're up to 350 resellers on this contract. You're throwing out a bid for servers to 350 different organizations that might bid on it. That's huge. There's advantages to it. OGS was involved in a procurement for ITS. We bought a bunch of servers. It was several $1 million worth of servers. They were not wed to a specific manufacturer, just to specific technologies. So we said, okay, what are your specs? Put these all together for us. Our normal discount is about between 20 and 30% off list. We got over 60% off list. In addition to that, they also threw in several $100,000 worth of installation and training services for free. Huge savings on that. Was it a lot of work? Oh yeah. It was pretty close to an RFP. Can you do it? Yes. And we do suggest it. If you're doing something in the multi-million-dollar range, yeah, why not? If you're not wed to a specific manufacturer, fine, you'll get a much better price. If you go to just one manufacturer, they know they've got you over a barrel already, you're standardized on their solution, you're going to get 20 to 30% off discount or list. But if you're competing the big boys against each other, first of all, most of your resellers are going to be knocked out immediately. You won't get 350 quotes back. You'll probably get 10 back. But more importantly on that one, you're going to have the manufacturers looking very carefully at everybody else's product. What's going to fit? What's going to fit these specifications? And don't fool yourselves. They know each other's products better than they know their own. So they know who their direct competition is. They're going to be able to do this very quickly and figure out where the price point is. And that's how we got 60% off. Huge savings, but huge administrative work as well. So think carefully about doing that. When a manufacturer's come onto the umbrella contract and they haven't put on resellers or they haven't put on 5 resellers, we force that competition because that's what OSC has said. It has to be a competitive transaction. We didn't do a competitive transaction to get this in place. We said if you are over this bar, $5 million worth of sales to a government entity in the hardware lot, $1 million in the software lot, if you've gone over that bar, you're good to come in. Please come and play. You have to do the competitive transaction on your end because you've got money on the table. If a manufacturer has 5 or more, great, pick the manufacturer and go. If they don't, then they have to take their chances against competing with every other manufacturer and every other reseller. Administratively, that's a lot of work. Our manufacturers aren't stupid, though. They're very smart people. They've looked at this. Manufacturers that have traditionally said, I don't do business with resellers, suddenly do business with resellers because there's $2 billion on the table.
Is Apple one of those?
Apple bid on the contract.
Are they gonna,
Oracle bid on the contract.
is it gonna be,
All I can say is they bid on the contract. I heard.
Amazon?
Amazon did not submit to the contract. So while we know administratively it is a bit more work, think about when it's useful, think about when it's not. If it's not worth the time, if it's not worth your time, okay. If it's for a couple $100 worth of something or other, probably not worth your time to go cross-manufacturer. If it's a couple $1 million, yeah, it might be worth your time. Right now, I said Sharon's going to go through these RFQs. She'll show you where to find the contractor emails. They're spread out a bit. It's painful to find them, and we know it's painful to find them. Our problem is that our contractors are coming, our manufacturers are coming on so quickly, and they're changing their reseller lists on a daily basis. We're getting requests over and over and over for them to play with their reseller lists because they're just figuring out now, uh-oh, I'm responsible for these people. I'm not just throwing a name in the hat. I'm legally responsible for the actions they perform. They've woken up to that, and they say, oh, wait a minute. Now I've got to vet all these resellers. It's not just a name in the hat. I've got to actually stand behind them. So they're thinking about that very, very carefully before they submit a reseller to us. And they are, but it's taking a little while for them to do it. As soon as that comes up, as soon as that flow starts to stabilize, we'll have mailing lists out there. We'll have them for each lot. We might even have them for categories within each lot. We're also talking about the possibility of polling the vendors the same way that you can poll in PBITS, doing the same type of thing, sending out who sells servers, great, this is my reseller list, let's go. That should cut things down hopefully quite a bit for all of you. Getting tight on time here, yes?
Is Microsoft going to stay with a single reseller model that they are now?
All I can say is Microsoft did bid on the umbrella contract. Other than that, I can't really say. So, flip on to the next. Evaluate responses is pretty much the same as what you've gotten from PBITS already. Notify contractors, flip to the next one, is the same that you've heard already. PBITS has done a good job with that. And the next one is finalize the procurement record. And again, this is pretty much the same thing that PBITS has done. You're building your own procurement record. If you're not working for a state agency under OSC's control, you have your own guidelines of what goes in that procurement record, so please follow those. If you're under a state agency or under OSC control, they've had a great checklist out there for a long time. Please follow it. Any other questions? They did. So, as I said, the manufacturers have goals at the contract level. OGS controls those goals, and we'll be the ones calling them in if they're not meeting those goals. But you can put additional goals on your transactions, and regardless who has the goals, if there's MWBE spend on that contract, you're the ones who get to take that spend. That goes to your agency, not to OGS. Yes?
If there's a software that offers a cloud piece, will that be in the software category or the cloud category? Or both?
That's a tough one because that category is so blurry right now. What we've defined it as, if the piece of software in any way transmits data into the cloud, so end user data is in the cloud, then it's cloud. If not, it's software. Specifically, we're looking for names, addresses, social security numbers, employee IDs, anything that's federally protected. It's protected information, protected identifying information, or personally protected information, any of those that are out there. But really, if your data goes into the cloud, then it's cloud. And we tried to make that very clear to our vendors. It's a gray line, though. Every day, we're looking at different software solutions, and someone's saying, well, I need a phone number for an authorized user to call them up and say, you've got a problem with your machine. That means my data's in their server somewhere. Is that cloud? Is that not cloud? We're depending a lot on ITS and their experts in the ISO's office to help us out with that. Yes?
Can you clarify what cloud is and what's
What cloud is? That's a tough question that we struggled a lot with, and we brought in a lot of experts. Right now, the only bright, shiny line is when any authorized user data is stored, acted upon, or transmitted outside of their control. So if it's leaving the state control, if it's leaving the state network, going outside and sitting on a server somewhere else, it's cloud. That's not a great definition. We have that fun discussion with ISO all the time. And in some cases, that's way too rigid, and in some cases, that's way too flexible. But it's the best we've got right now, and I'm happy to say that every other state is in the same boat we are. Nobody knows how to define cloud any better than that. So, yes?
Adobe, where did you wind up with that? It's got a cloud component, but it can be shut off. We're just using it internally, it's not going out to the cloud. Is it in software or in cloud? Because even now, on the old miscellaneous contract, 1 month he'd let it be sold under it, then I'd get told that it couldn't be because it's cloud. Gave me
Right.
descriptions and instructions on what we had to do, and then it got reversed again.
So Adobe is a bidder on the umbrella contract. I don't know exactly what lots they're bid on. I'm sure it's software and cloud lots. But I really can't tell you which one that would fit in right now. A lot of it depends on what information would be stored in there and what information would be moved through it. If it has the capacity to store data in there that would be personally protected, and I would think Adobe would, but I can't tell you right now which way that would fly.
On the miscellaneous software back in July, we posted products that we do allow. One is a government, and so it's not housed outside of the environment. And the other one, if you install it as is, it's okay, it's not cloud. But there is the ability to make it cloud, and we recommend that you do not make it cloud product.
But it was also not a network version or something. Something was good, yeah, it got more complicated, even though that
And it's
particular department wasn't putting it out on the cloud, they were internal servers, it was still networked, and it wasn't a network, it wasn't
Cloud
an
is not
enterprise
allowed on
version.
the miscellaneous, so those were two that we considered.
Well, that's what I'm saying, we went back and
Yeah.
forth, I mean,
It's-
probably yes, that was back and forth.
that's a problem with a lot of different softwares out there right now, is it traditionally was an on-prem, it was on your machine, and it became a cloud. In some cases, it was very easy to tell that it became a cloud. In some cases, it became a cloud and nobody knew. And it's not for lack of trying. There's a lot of very technical people out there that said, yeah, this was sitting right here on my machine, and their machine died, and all of a sudden the information was back again. Well, where is it? Well, it's sitting out on a client server, or it's sitting, better yet, out on a vendor server. It's very hard to tell this stuff. Yes?
Pros and cons of cloud.
I could be here for the next 3 days.
How about we just
Um,
do the forums and then we can
yeah.
answer all these questions after, so that you can,
Be on the cloud price list, or would be on the software, the software.
Right now, yes. For the,
Oh, you
Yes.
searched it on
And I'll
the-
show you that, I'll
Yeah.
show you some of those.
Because it has to be on the price list in order to get it.
for the umbrella, yes.
So, we're on the website.
Yeah, go to our landing page, please. Okay, so I'm Sharon Featherstone. You may or may not have had some conversations with me about this contract. I'm sure we'll speak in the future. I just wanted to go over a lot of the tools that we have for the umbrella contract for you to use in soliciting your solutions against this. So we're going to have Kelly go to our template page. I want to just review our how to use the contract document. So the first one. Yep. This document, this document and our RFQ documents have all had a significant facelift, and they were just released to you today. So you're seeing something a little bit differently, and I just want to go through how they work and act together because they're pretty powerful and they lay out everything for you. So our how to use document is laid out. It's going to tell you about our contract. You can keep scrolling. It's going to tell you about what you need to do to develop your RFQ. Then it's going to talk about, basis for award. So basis for award for the umbrella contract could be lowest price. It could be lowest price meeting pass-fail requirements. It could be best value with technical and financial scores. So you've got a lot of different options with how you would score your responses to this solicitation. So if we keep going. We talked in depth about a lot of these items already, your scope. Kelly went through the cloud. So these are some terms and conditions you may want to include in your complex RFQ if you are entering into a cloud solution. And it's going to talk about data categorization studies. It's going to talk about the types of descriptions, the risks, your data risks. You're going to see data risks of low, moderate, and high. Those are all defined throughout the contract as well too. And these are just some of these pieces that you're going to want to include if you do decide to go to a cloud solution. Also for our implementation services, we've included some additional terms and conditions you may want to include as well. We talked about these already. Retainage, we've talked about largely, and the unanticipated enhancement, which charges 20%. I'll show you how you're going to use those on your financial templates. So if you keep going further, it's going to walk you through, things to consider for your statement of work. Those terms and conditions that we talked about, that if you want to require the vendor to hold a quote for a certain period of time, you would toss that in under your authorized user terms and conditions. You might have some special delivery time frames. You may have prevailing wage, public works, living wage. it's endless. So these are all outlined in this how to use document. So if we keep going further to the next area, we're going to talk a little bit about our procurement scenarios, and Mark touched base on a lot of these already. What this is going to line out for you is going to say, okay, I've got an RFQ. I don't care who my vendor is that responds. I've got some pretty defined specifications. It's going to tell you, what do I have to do? What do I have to include? What documents do I use to do this RFQ? So it's going to say you probably use your basic RFQ, and you're going to use your basic RFQ financial response. Who do I go to? I'm going to go to all manufacturers and all of their approved resellers for the products lots. And my basis for award generally is going to be lowest price. So this is going to walk you through the basic scenarios, what I pick, and how I evaluate, and what I need to do for this RFQ. It's pretty simple. It gets detailed. So some of the other examples are, hey, I've got implementation. And if we have implementation, you're always going to want to use the complex RFQ. You could use the basic RFQ financial response, or you could use the complex. Depends on if you have those deliverable-based implementation pieces for that RFQ. So simplest, I've got an RFQ involving a single manufacturer. I don't have any implementation. Basic RFQ, basic response. I go to the manufacturer and the resellers of the lot. If that manufacturer has 5 or more approved resellers named, I go out. My basis of award could be lowest price. It could be lowest price meeting technical requirements, etc. This is how this document works through for you. So it tells you how to put it together. Here's some sample scenarios. Here's what I need to put the documents together. It's going to be your best friend in using this umbrella contract moving forward. So that's pretty simple. What I want to show you now is our new and improved, very much improved RFQ documents. So these documents, like I said, they had a significant facelift. So if we want to pick up the basic one, Kelly. Cross your fingers. That's it. Okay, so if you go to the top, I'm just going to hit your escape key. Yep, but hit your escape key. It's in a different viewer. There you go. So we talked about this already. The front page, these are all your instructions. These are for you. Read them through. They mirror what is in the how to use documents. It's simple. It's going to walk you through. It's going to, if there's items on the cover page that maybe you want to have different considerations or they're just not apparent, go to here. It's going to explain things. You know, for example, you might have special delivery requirements. You may be E-rate eligible. Only certain entities are E-rate eligible, usually the schools. What attachments you may or may not include additionally for this procurement that could be helpful, what you should and shouldn't include in your mandatory requirements. You might already have those SKUs defined. You already know what I want. I've got the product numbers, I've got the descriptions, I'm all set to go. Or again, maybe you don't care. You want somebody to suggest to you what product is going to meet my needs and how many of each of those that I need. It's very powerful, and it walks you through these steps. You might have those optional terms and conditions. You might need our dispute resolution policy. Not every agency has a dispute resolution policy. It just gives you that language. Again, you're going to delete that page before you send any of this out. You get to our cover page. This is, I mean, this doesn't get any more basic anymore. You're going to put in, you're going to name it, give it something that's going to be unique. You're going to give it a number. You're going to tell the manufacturers and resellers who wants this, who's the contact. You may or may not be required to have procurement lobbying. It may or not be covered by your agency or entity. You're going to indicate that there. It's a yes or no. You're going to indicate the lots that you're soliciting from. You know, you got your date it's going out, the date it needs to come back, your basis for award, if it's E-rate, and your attachment is always going to be the financial response. It's laid out. It's pretty easy. It's just a cover page. Your next page is just even simpler now. Like I told you, these got simple. You're going to say what I want, optional authorized user terms and conditions. If you don't have any, just delete the section. If you already have a dispute resolution policy, delete the stuff that's N1.1. I mean, that's basic. That's it there. That's all you would do. Our manufacturers get this whole document. They tell you who they are. This could be filled out by a manufacturer or a reseller. They put in their contract number, their name. They sign it. They send it back to you. And I don't know if anybody noticed, anybody's used these yet. If you scrolled down a little bit further, Kelly. That's right. So those certifications that were there before, they're gone. Okay? They're going to sign them. They're not going to notarize them anymore unless you require them. If you want them to notarize for whatever reasons, you have that option. You can do that, but that's gone too. We made this much simpler. So that in a nutshell is our basic RFQ. Any questions?
Once a year, 2 or 3 at a time. 90% of it is Dell because that's what we have standardized. You mean to tell me I have to send it out to every single one of those people to get a quote?
You would have to send it to Dell and all of their approved resellers.
How much additional work you have made to have all them come back and analyze them? You're talking about a part-time organization, and we are required by law to buy off a New York State contract. We get money from our constituents. We have to. And if we don't, we get written up by New York State when they come and audit us. I'm there 7 to 8 hours a week, period. You have just increased the amount of work exponentially by having to send it to all these people and get all these responses back and analyze them and review.
So what we ask you to do is to send it all to the resellers and evaluate the responses you do get back from the resellers and the manufacturer. And if you get less than 3 responses back, to just pull and to ask why. What we're not asking you to do is to go back out to every single reseller and say, and again, as Mark said, this contract, if it doesn't meet form,
5 or 6 of them off the list, send it to them, get 5 or 6 back. Now you've compounded that exponentially.
There's 2 problems. One is the aggregate bid is out there. That will still be, if you pick a model on the aggregate bid, we've done the competition for it.
Right, and I did do that when the aggregate.
That's not out there
But it's
currently.
not out
It's
there.
not out
No,
there.
but it will be.
It just ended.
Okay.
The problem is that it wasn't transparent before. So there were a lot of resellers out there that never saw any business, and there were a lot of resellers out there that were getting much higher prices than everyone else was getting. And you were getting higher prices because you were only going to 3 or 5. So there wasn't true competition.
I understand what you're doing, but you have to understand that you're talking about offices that have 1 or 2 people that are doing procurement for, and you have just added mega amount of hours for 1 RFP. And I do mean mega.
It should.
Just the hours right now to get the addresses, doesn't.
Just to put the thing
And then the
out,
phone calls that follow.
it's outrageous.
Okay, so right now, it's painful. When we get the mailing list, it will be less painful. We do a single email, BCC every vendor in there, have them put an automatic, or have them put a subject line they must reply to. So the subject line is RFQ number 1234. If they don't reply with that specific subject line, you never even look at their quote because you won't see it. All you do is you print off those, or even if you don't want to print them off, just put them in a pile. Which one's the lowest? Did they meet the specs? That's the winner go.
But say you want 1 computer, and you have to send, regardless of the value of the purchase, each purchase needs to go out to quote.
That's true. And that's what we talked about before, where if you're doing this, aggregation is the best bet. 2, if you can't, try and lock in the price for, if you're doing a driver, 1 computer now and then, you try and lock that in for a year, or lock it in for a category. We understand it's more work, but it's competition. And the point of this contract is competition. It's not going to work for everybody. A business decision has to be made at the local level is a $30 item worth doing a full RFQ for?
You don't have a choice with a school district. You have to do an RFQ. So for a $30 item, we've now spent 5 or 6 hours at our salary for a $30 item. You add that on top of the $30 hour, who did we save money for? Nobody.
I understand that issue, but that's not the state contract is a state contract. It's written to comply with state finance law, and it's written to comply with OSC and other guidelines. So if your specific locality or specific organization has a rule that says you have no discretionary spending, they've made a business decision to say you have no discretionary
It has
spending.
nothing to do with business decision. If you work for a school district or a fire district or anybody that gets money from the state in any way, shape, or form, we have to meet all the auditor's requirements. And if they walk in here and they see that we bought X amount of dollars from Dell in a year, they want to see every purchase order that you have bought from Dell, whether it's a $70,000 server or a $30 mouse. And if you don't show that you went out and got it off a New York State contract, you are written up.
So
No discussion.
OSC allows a form function utility justification for not using the contract.
Well, that's one more. They don't want to hear it.
I've had that discussion with auditors before. It is allowed under New York State law. It's allowed by OSC. If you have a question, I would discuss that with OSC. They do allow it. Now, I can say the larger the transaction, the less they're going to take that into consideration. Unless you can really prove that you have a very special need.
We're probably do a $70,000 order.
So I think people are anxious to see the rest of the forms that we have up on the screen. I know a lot of people are leaving and have to leave to catch buses, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm going to have Kelly open up our financial responses. The complex RFQ just adds in a couple of different sections from the basic, where you can have your statement of work, and it also allows for a couple of more terms and conditions that you can add in it, but it's built exactly the same way. Yeah, let's move on to the financial one. It's okay. So it's
No, it's the Excel document.
Yep. Nope, that's PBITS.
There you go.
That's not ours either.
Nope, yeah, that happened.
You're on PBITS landing page, Kelly?
There you go.
That's okay. So we're gonna go into the, whoa.
What happened there? That's our old document. That's not
How did that all of a sudden?
Do you have it on your machine, Sharon?
You know what, I went to the website.
It's up.
Sorry.
That's okay. We're gonna have you go back.
Wait, but none of these are it, right?
No. Okay. Sorry.
Sorry about that.
That's okay. So here they are. Just really quickly, just want to go over. They kind of mirror and mimic the RFQ document. Again, you would just add in, depending on what you're doing, if you know exactly what you want, you would detail that out in the lines. So the instructions say when your SKUs have been identified, you're going to give it an RFQ number, put your name in, you're going to tell us what lot the items are from, give a product description, and give the part number. And if you know the New York State contract price, you can throw that in. That's not required for you to fill in. What's powerful about these responses is this is where our vendors are going to give us those additional discounts for those products. And then they can give us those discounts in a percentage form, or they could give it to us in a monetary form, or they can give it to us in both. And this is where those resellers are being encouraged to give us those deeper not to exceed discounts moving forward. These are going to calculate up. So you're going to get one number. You're going to be able to say, okay, here's all my responses, A, B, C, D, and E. This is their value. It's going to be in your upper right-hand corner. If you're doing a simple lowest cost RFQ, it's going to be vendor A, B, and C by dollar value. You're going to sort who's the lowest. There's your apparent, your tentative awardee. So this is going to collect. It's also going to consolidate, and it's going to make all of your financial responses the same, so that when you go to look at them, you're only looking at one piece. You're going to have to look at them closer if you don't predefine those SKU numbers or those part numbers. But again, if you're, the example you had used earlier about, I wanted a 5-year warranty, they gave me a 2-year warranty. Well, if you've predefined that here, they're not going to be able to give you an alternative response. They're only going to be able to quote you that item. If they don't quote that item, they're done, they're out. So it's as simple as, here's what I want.
I gotta fill this out, time I send this?
It depends on how far you want to take it. If you have a very specific procurement, it's very narrow, it's to a specific manufacturer that meets the 5 or more reseller requirement, it doesn't hurt. You should. I mean, you want the best response possible back from the vendors. But if you really want them to float a solution to you that, hey, maybe they know more than I do, you can just put those minimum requirements in your RFQ and tell them, hey, you fill this out and give it back to me. It could go either way.
So if you're gonna order another computer, say in 3 months, you already have your quote ready.
Right, these can be used
Yeah,
over and
if
over
you're doing-
again.
If you're doing purchasing for 20 or so, or some places do more, 70 different school districts with many types of computers that they want, and you fill this out, and you fill it out with 50, 60 vendors, value-added resellers, and you're one person.
Which is why, if you want, you can cut and paste that description and just put it in the RFQ template. But then you're going to have to go back and look at each quote that comes in, or at least not each quote, but your final quote that comes in, the lowest quote, and say, did they meet my original specs? If they're giving you a 2-year warranty instead of a 5-year, that quote goes in the trash. The next quote comes up because they didn't give you what you asked for.
Kelly, you want to pull up the other one?
So it's just whether you do the work of filling out the sheet or you look at the sheet on the back end, either way.
3.2. So this is the complex one, and the only reason it's a little bit more complex is it's broken out by deliverable. It's the same feel, the same mechanics as the basic one. The only difference is it calculates in chunks based on deliverable base. It's the same premise. You would have a product description, part numbers. They're going to give you product discounts. They're going to give you maybe an additional monetary discount. It's going to calculate up. If you could scroll down, Kelly. We just left a lot of lines just in case they could be deleted. I think there's 50 lines per deliverable. So if you scroll to the right, so if it's implementation, there's travel costs involved, which are allowable under Lot 4 only. They can have those costs there. They may even give you another deeper discount. You can also prescribe at the top the enhancement budget too. So it's all pre-figured out for you. And this is really powerful for those big, complex procurements that can be, for multi-million dollars. I mean, think about the time frame. If you're to do an RFP for something for implementation services, you're looking for, I worked for an agency, you were lucky if you got something through your agency in a year. These, you can have a very complex procurement in and out within 2 to 3 months' time. It's going to significantly cut your time frame down on these more complex procurements, definitely. And that's what these forms are going to do. Are there any questions on the forms or how they work? I mean, and keep your feedback coming on how these use too. We know we're going to update them. We know that you're going to have some, enhancements you're going to want us to make for these forms as well too. So, the only other thing I wanted to show you, and you could stick around if you want, is if we go back to the landing page, which we're not sure. If you go back one more, Kelly. Just hit the back arrow once. back arrow, Kelly. Go on.
Back arrow on
On the web?
Enterprise
Go here.
Very sport. There you go. Big
You
blue
see the
arrow.
back arrow there?
Oh, because you know what, I'm not seeing that on mine.
That one.
there.
There you go. Yay! So if we go into our Word documents,
This is a stressful job.
go back once more. Contractor information. So these are our contracts right now. Just pull up the center one for now. That's the price list. So if you go to the right and click on your price list. One of the best parts about these contracts is all of these price lists are set up exactly the same. You're going to see a category discount. It's going to show the lots that they have, their basic minimum category discounts for those lots. And so they have lot 1 software, for example. It's going to show all the products that are in that lot. The fields, the columns, the Excel piece of this, you can have at it. You can cut and paste from this. It's friendly. You can search, you can filter, you can do whatever you need to do. But all of those columns, these are exactly the same across each and every one of our vendors, which does help with when you're going to look for things or trying to find things. So I just wanted to point that out because that's, as an authorized user, I think it's nice to have the consistent price lists across all the manufacturers to know what you're looking for across these contracts. And you'll see they have lot 4 implementation as well. Yep. If you want to go back to the web page, Kelly. So contractor information. Right now, they're in the contact fields, and they're by lot. Again, we're working diligently, and we hope to have this list up very soon so that we have another link that just said, hey, here's all your emails for your resellers. We're getting our contractors as well, too, to recognize that not all their resell all the manufacturers' same product categories. We're narrowing that down as well, too. We're trying to get some subcategories to make these less, just to narrow down these mailing lists. I understand, I hear what everybody is saying about these contracts, and we're doing everything we can to try to, again, enhance these so they're easier for use. So your feedback, whether it's good, bad, or indifferent, we want good feedback too, is really important to us. Send them to the email address that we have in the presentation. We want to hear from you. Yes?
Is there any guidelines on, or restrictions on how much time we give them, the 300 vendors, to get back to us on? So we can narrow it down to a week if we want to.
So again, in reality, it's going to be the rare occasion that you're going to send it out to 300 vendors. So maybe 50. And again, we're narrowing that down. We're trying to get that down to a reasonable amount of vendors across of our manufacturers. We know that that's an open issue right now. But no, the time frame is your time frame. So just pick something that you know that they can actually get back to you on. I mean, if you're doing a full-scale best value per, RFQ, you're probably going to want to give them, 30 days at least to review and to get a valuable response back to you. If you're doing a basic RFQ, I just want X, Y, and Z, a couple business days is reasonable.
If you're buying something off of lots 1, 2, and 4, all the bars aren't the same, you have to bid them out separately?
We've found, for the most part, the VARs are the same across, so it's something that you would just have to check, but yeah, you would.
So if there's one that doesn't match on all 3, you have to bid that out separately?
Yeah. Well, you would include it in the RFQ, the mailing list. You wouldn't do it necessarily separately.
On the Dell contract, when looking up a certain particular laptop, I see it looks like it's all a la carte. You pick the model, you pick the memory, you pick all that. So you would copy and paste those particular line items, put them in that financial statement and send that out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and Dell, I understand. Dell has a lot of, this is a zero cost thing, or it's this or that. There's a lot of filler when you do their products. I don't think that if it's a no cost, it's filler, it's meaningless to people going out. I don't know if I would necessarily include all of those little pieces. I'm going to include the guts and the meat and potatoes, the things that are going to cost, the things that I know are going to cost in my RFQ.
You may be able to copy and paste it into the Excel from your website when you get that final quote, where it says the item and then the next column is the SKU and then the.
Well, the way I'm looking at it now, if I want to copy and paste a laptop, pick the laptop. Maybe I want the fourth line down for the fourth decision of a processor. Maybe I want the seventh line down for the second choice of the memory size. I don't see how we're making this easier to use.
Well, that's why if you want, you can go right to the Dell configure it, and stick it in your RFQ.
Is there a website
document.
with that right now? A Dell
There.
configure it?
Yeah.
Dell
I thought it
has
was
one.
being reviewed.
We haven't published it out because they have a couple items that they have to be removed. They're not from our contract. So they're playing some games that we have to stop. And that's just the way things go with vendors. It's possible to do that. But then again, you're either dropping it into the RFQ and letting all those resellers respond, and you have to go through and check the winning one to make sure they meet all your specs, or you fill out the Excel sheet. You're spending time in the front end or the back end. Either way, you have to check your specs. Whichever way is more
And you said,
advantageous for you.
you said Apple did bid.
Yep.
Is it in process? Is it close? Is
It hasn't been DQ.
it hasn't been?
So it's still in play. It's still in the evaluation stage. It hasn't been DQ'd. So,
Now, you said that there's a minimum, like if they don't have any value-added resellers, I have to take that on its own merit and send it out to at least 3 other manufacturers?
all other manufacturers.
All other manufacturers?
All manufacturers.
In a lot.
And as I say, the manufacturers.
But we're trying to, and we again are trying to get some better descriptions so that, you're doing apples to apples, not, apples to grapes. We're trying to get we're working through these. We're trying to get it better suited so that you can drill down to what you need to get.
Apple reps are trying to tell us, they don't allow any other vendor to sell to education. They aren't on any bids, and they're not on any national cooperatives that I'm aware of.
Apple, they have, can I interrupt? They have a sole source letter that you can get. I just got it, and it tells us that all our educational items we can purchase through them under the sole source education, except if we're doing our iPads, there are 3 resellers, and only if we're doing with the cellular on.
Right, but you're saying a laptop a Mac laptop is a sole source item when other manufacturers have laptops. Is that allowable as a sole source letter?
That would be for OSC if there's termination.
Actually, I turned it in first.
Just a thought though, if a vendor is giving you a sole source letter,
It doesn't mean anything.
on top of that, every vendor out there could say that their product is better than everybody else's product. So, and that's one of the reasons, and I know the competition is painful on this at the moment, but every vendor is trying to say their product is a sole source, and we know it's not. So, if you have the same PC with the same processor, the same memory, in most cases, the same motherboard, they may have a different shell, whether it's black or green or purple or silver. What's the difference in the box? Is it just the operating system? If it's only the operating system, really? When
I
start to,
don't think it's acceptable, but
when I look at 10 different tablets, I couldn't tell you whether one is Linux or is it Android or is it this flavor, that flavor, or something else, or is it an Apple? They're getting to blend so much together. Somebody would have to make an interesting justification, but I'm glad that's OSC that makes that justification.
So I'm going to take us back out of the weeds for a minute, and I did follow up on an earlier question you had about the Oki data and the printing contracts. We are looking at a 2-year renewal for that, so it's in process right now.
awesome.
So, yes, one last question, and then we're going to wrap up.
Yeah, I just, ag buy that expired, until the new one comes out, are we used to use the umbrella contract to buy PCs?
Yes, yeah, the answer is yes. And again, ag buy's around the corner.
Wait a minute, the ag buy will be done off this contract, but it will not require competition. The competition will be done for you.
Yeah.
We will, thank you for your time. We will be around to answer any more questions that you guys have, and we will be making the presentation available to all of you via email, and we're going to take a look at the video and post that as well. Thank you very much for your time, and we appreciate it.